Hi there, I hope you're well. In the workshop this week, we're going to take a look at 10 tools that I wished I'd had when I was starting out. Now, this question came about from one of my subscribers, FD, in the comments recently. He asked me, top 10 tools starting out, which do you have now that you wish you had then? This is not a definitive list of the only 10 tools you need for your woodshop. Nothing like that. These are just 10 tools, 10 categories of tools that I wish I'd had when I was starting out. And to be fair, I think I bought most of them pretty soon after I started out. I started out doing handyman type work, and within a few years we're starting to move into doing sort of little bits of fitted furniture and onto kitchens and bathrooms and stuff like that. So I picked up these tools quite early on, but yeah, I really wish I had them when I was starting out. And it's important to say as well that this isn't about brands, this is about sort of categories of tool, and I think there's only one specific one, which you'll know it when we come to it, which is tied to a specific brand because it is a unique tool. But let's jump right in with the one that I wished I had most of all. And it's this one, the Plunge Saw. Yes, this is the Festool TS55, which I bought in 2006. So about 6 years after I'd started just doing general handyman stuff. And I bought that one because it was the only game in town. I wish we'd had access to these kind of plunge saws back then. This one's the Titan. It's my favorite sort of entry-level plunge saw. It was I've featured that in videos before. It cost about £90 when I bought it. I wish I could have had that for a quarter of the price of this one back in 2006. That would have been fantastic. But plunge saws were brilliant. I used to cut stuff up in here. I had a big old radial arm saw which I try and rip stuff on, and the dust was everywhere. And just the ability to put a track down and cut a perfect line was just almost unbelievable. I've said before, the plunge saw, more than anything, was an enabling tool for me because it enabled me to compete with guys who had a far greater investment in tools and machinery. So next up, and kind of tied into that, is dust collection, dust extraction. Again, the idea of having a hose attached to your power tool back when I was starting out was very, very strange. These kind of dust collectors were the only ones in town. We're talking about mobile units for use on site, not shop vacs, by the way. I got the Festool one because obviously it ties in with the system. The sustainers all clip into it and you can roll it around. But honestly, if I could have had this one for about 30 or 40 pounds back then, even if this isn't in the same sort of league in terms of filtration as the Festool, and I've said it before, tidying up after yourself creates a far better impression than almost any piece of work that I've ever done for a customer. Okay, so next up, 1/4-inch router. I wish I'd have got my hands on something like this sooner. Back when I first started out, as I said, I was moving into doing sort of bits of kitchen work and that kind of thing. So I needed a honking great 1/2-inch router. I bought this one. British viewers will recognize the Performance Power Pro brand. Obviously this is been dedicated to a different kind of jig now. But I needed to do kitchen worktops and that kind of thing, and I needed a big 1/2-inch router like this. And it actually took me quite a while to get it together, to get a smaller, lighter weight router for lighter sort of trimming duties. And I do wish I'd had access to these kind of little 1/4-inch palm routers back when I was starting out as well. Really so handy. I mean, cheap enough that you can have one with a round over bit or a flush trimming bit in it, dedicated to a specific task. They really are fantastic value for money. And talking of fantastic value for money, at the other end of the spectrum, we've got Festool's Domino. Yes, this is the one branded tool that is actually unique in a kind of category of its own. I have other jointing systems which cost far more than this did, and yet this remains the most versatile jointing system that I've come across. In fact, the more I use the other systems, the more it just reminds me of how good this is. This was a huge leap of faith for me. The only reason I could afford this when I bought it, it had just come out, was that I had one job that would sort of justify it. I think the whole cost of the job just about paid for the Domino, so I did that one essentially for free. But then I've said before in other videos, this is essentially a free tool. If you keep it for long enough, and I have, then I would be astonished if I couldn't get back what I paid for this. They are remarkable tools. I can imagine not having all kinds of tools, but I can't imagine being without a Domino, to be perfectly honest. Well, I've still got the workshop. And next up, it's clamps. Yes, you can never have too many clamps. I wish I had more of these starting out. I used to buy these. These were relatively cheap, these little solo metal clamps. I used to buy these from a local tool shop back when we had local tool shops. They were about £5 each, I think, and every other week I'd go and buy one or two as I could. I've got a few of these now. These were sort of earlier versions of the quick clamp style, so one-handed grippy clamp. You never have enough of them. You never have ones that are big enough. You always have ones that are the wrong size. I'll probably do a video just about clamps, actually. Let me know in the comments if you'd be interested in that. But these ones are great. These ones got me started. I found a whole bunch of these again. I must have about a dozen tucked away under one of the benches, and can't quite bear to get rid of them. So yeah, not sure what I'll use them for, but I'll use them for something. So next is a portable bench. I sort of made do with basic trestles and a Black & Decker workmate and that sort of thing. And after a few years, around about 2008, I made this portable bench. This was pretty terrible. It started out life as a bench for when I was hanging doors, and it was all pretty, janky, and it had a couple of stays in here that kind of clamped on and locked it up pretty well. And it's been chopped about quite a bit since then, but it was this bench that got me started on the idea of a dedicated portable bench, one that I could take with me to a job site, and that's basically what influenced my portable bench build much later on. But as good as my portable bench was, I wish I'd had one of these when I was first starting out. Festool's MFT top. This is an original Festool MT800 top from about 2007 or thereabouts. I had this before I had that. I actually bought this as the template to make the top for that one, although I never actually got around to it. I genuinely can't remember what I paid for this one, but as an original Festool top, it was around about 150 quid or thereabouts in, as I say, 2006, 2007. And it was such a lot of money. The idea that you could get one of these for 30 or 40 pounds off eBay was just a complete fantasy. And I think everybody who can get their hands on one of those should, because they're just so incredibly useful, especially if you can combine them with my next favourite tool, and it's the simple Bench Dog. Just such a simple idea. Round peg in a round hole that locates everything accurately. It's so clever and so simple. Not a Festool idea. Festool didn't have bench dogs in mind at all for the MFT or the MFT style top. It was all about clamping for them, whether that was using guide rail clamps like these to go through the holes, or using their what they called clamping elements those days. They're called surface clamps now, I think. That's what they were all about, and this is why there's a certain amount of confusion about MFT hole sizes. Maybe we'll do a separate video on that altogether. Anyway, the idea of a simple aluminium or steel bench dog was just extraordinary, and so clever and so simple, and yet it made so many people so much more accurate in the work they could do, including me. Next up, it's the whole category of 10.8 volt tools, but in particular the 10.8 drill drivers, especially with lithium ion batteries. They were a big jump forwards in capacity, in capabilities. I think I've owned every version of this particular 10.8 volt drill driver from Bosch. They were just remarkable tools for what, at their time. This one's 2008, and this was one of the later ones. So I think around about 2005, 2006, I'd had a big 18 volt NiCad DeWalt combi drill, and coming from that to these, which had almost as much power and yet in such a small package, was a real revelation. They were just brilliant, and they still are. There are many other types of 10.8 volt tool around these days, but I really regret not having something this small and light available to me when I was first setting out doing handyman type work. And finally, I think no tool list is complete without mentioning a rail square. I did have a rail square not long after I started using a plunge saw. I had this one. I've talked about this before briefly. It is an absolute monstrosity, and I wouldn't wish it on anybody to have something as well made and as well machined as this one. This is the Bench Dog's one. This is the Mark II. We'll be talking about that in a future video. But to have something like this with you and the capabilities that it brings, especially when you're on site, even here in the workshop where I've got a Festool MFT, it's just proved itself to be incredibly worthwhile. So yeah, I wish I'd had something that good. I'd been put off them for a long time, to be honest, by my experiences with this thing, and I'm really pleased that I've got it now. Oh, actually, one more thing. That's 10. One more thing, actually. One thing I really wish I had when I was starting out, and it's technically not a tool, I guess, but it's a van, it's a commercial vehicle, it's a vehicle that's dedicated to your work. When I first set up doing the handyman stuff, I was running around in the family car, and I must have taken thousands of pounds in value off that thing. What I really should have had, what I really needed, was a small dedicated vehicle that you can just throw stuff in, and it doesn't matter if things get messy. Getting my first van was a huge leap forwards to me and to the way I worked. That's yeah, I think it counts as a tool. Let me know in the comments if you agree. I've said before that we kind of live in a golden age of power tool prosperity with such a wide range of tools available to us at such an amazing range of prices, but I can't honestly put my hand on my heart and say that not having these tools held me back any, but I sure could have used them had I had them available to me at the time. Those are my top 10 tools anyway, or 11. Let me know what yours are down in the comments below, but I'll call it a day on this one, I think. Thanks so much for watching. If you enjoyed the video, give it a big thumbs up or two, and I just want to say thanks so much to all my YouTube members and Patreon supporters for helping make this channel what it is. But that's it for this week. Thanks so much for watching. Stay safe, take care, and I'll see you next time.